When I remove one oxygen from an ate ending, I turn it to an ite. Ite always has one less oxygen. If I remove one more oxygen from an ite ending, I get the prefix hypo. Hypo means below normal. Hypochlorite. Go back to that main element, chlorate, and you add one more oxygen on, and we get the prefix per, coming from hyper, which means above. Perchlorate is one more oxygen than chlorate. Notice the charge stays constant. These are all -1 charge. We're just changing the ending to recognize the number of oxygens. Here's another opportunity to see that. Nitrate, NO3 negative. Take off one oxygen and we get nitrite, NO2 negative. Here's another opportunity to see that. Sulfate, SO4, 2 negative. Remove one oxygen, we go from sulfate to sulfite, families of polyatomics. Phosphate to phosphite, ate and ite. The difference is one oxygen. Let's make another observation, and perhaps the easiest to do that is across the first row. The family is called phosphate, PO4 minus 3. Phosphate, PO4 minus 3. If we take phosphate and add one hydrogen to the formula, hydrogen written first, notice that we've gone from a -3 to a -2, which makes good sense because from our periodic table, we know hydrogen to be a +1. If we add on a positive hydrogen, we now have the ion called hydrogen phosphate. It's the phosphate polyatomic, but with a hydrogen attached, and the -3 now is at a -2. If we add on one more hydrogen, we move over to the first column. With 2 hydrogens attached to the phosphate, we now hear the name as dihydrogen phosphate polyatomic ion that carries a -1 charge. We've been listening to the names and the symbols of some common polyatomic ions. Again, groups of atoms acting as a covalently bonded group carrying a charge. We notice that most of them end with ite or ate endings. Good side note here. Monoatomic ions end with ide. Mono means one. Monoatomic ions end with ide. For example, Cl-1 is chloride. ClO-1, hypochlorite. ClO2, -1, chlorite. ClO3, -1, chlorate. ClO4, -1, perchlorate. But plain old Cl- is chloride. Monoatomic, one atom. Polyatomic, groups of atoms acting as a unit carrying a charge. Most commonly we'll hear that as ite or ate. There are 3 exceptions to the ite-ate rule, and we've heard their names. Let's refocus. Here's one: cyanide, hydroxide, and ammonium. Cyanide, hydroxide, and ammonium. The 3 exceptions to the polyatomic ion rule. Cyanide ends with IDE. It's a rule breaker. Hydroxide, OH negative. It ends with IDE. It's a rule breaker. And the positive polyatomic ion is NH4 carrying a +1 charge, ammonium. Pause your video here and take an opportunity to, with your polyatomic chart, take some time and look up the formulas. And the purpose, again, the more we say them, the more we look them up, the faster and more proficient we become in learning this new language. Pause the video and fill in the chart 1 through 10. 10 actually appears on the next page. It didn't make this list. It's on the next page over. So you'll have to flip your notepad.